All right, Matt, main event time, May 30th at 170 pounds between none other than the chosen one, Tyron Woodley, coming off of his title loss, where he had held the belt for quite some time, losing it to Kamaru Usman. He's coming back, taking on Gilbert Burns, who's absolutely on fire. A nice little 5-fight win streak, taking on the former champion. Matt, let's just take a moment to say thanks. Because it's a darn shame to poor Leon Edwards that he couldn't be at this fight. But we still have a really good one. And like I said from the start, I mean, Gilbert Burns, a 5-fight win streak. And when it started, you might have thought, oh, okay, Olivier Aubin-Mercier and Mike Davis. All right, what's that? All right, then it's Alexei Kunchenko. Well, that's a good win. I mean, Kunchenko, former M1 champ. Then he fights Gunnar Nelson, and I thought, oh, no way. The karate, the grappling, Nelson's going to win that fight. No, Gilbert Burns looked great. Then he fights a perennial contender, whether it's 170 pounds or 185 pounds, in Damian Maia, and blew the doors off him. So he comes into this fight against Tyron Woodley with an absolute head of steam. But let's not forget the body of work that Tyron Woodley's put in, because I think that's what a lot of people have done. They've slagged him for TMZ. They've slagged him for, I've been in and out of love with you. But Tyron Woodley, as a fighter, less the Kamaru Usman fight, is one of the best in the world at 170 pounds.
Oh, without a doubt. And this is such an interesting fight because, and I know this term gets thrown out a lot, but this is very much the definition of a crossroads fight because Gilbert Burns needs this win. He has good wins, and the Maia win's huge. If you're a really hardcore fan, you understand how good Maia is. But that win kind of puts you into, okay, you need 1 or 2 more wins, then you can get a title shot. If you beat Tyron Woodley, there's no excuse. You kind of deserve a title shot next.
And this is a division with the Nate Diaz's, the Conor McGregors, the Jorge Masvidals. I mean, Leon Edwards, to his credit, on an absolute roll, and realistically, and I joke, but he deserved that chance against Tyron Woodley. That was his fight. But when you're Gilbert Burns and you're on a roll of your own and you get a short notice opportunity, it's make or break. I mean, this is a guy that's 18-3, but he's also 33 years old, so it's somewhat long in the tooth competition-wise.
He is, and it's good that you brought that up. Age is going to be a huge factor in this fight. We don't really know if Father Time's touched Tyron Woodley on the shoulder yet. In the Usman fight, listen, maybe Usman's just better than Tyron Woodley, and that's probably the case. But Usman did look kind of old in that fight. He kind of aged overnight because if you look at that fight, he didn't really throw any punches. He didn't really defend many takedowns. He was just sort of accepting damage and not really doing an awful lot. And that really worries me in this fight. I think we can both agree. If Tyron Woodley shows up at his best, he beats Gilbert Burns. We just don't know what Tyron Woodley's going to show up. And Burns, as of late, he's got thunderous knockout power all of a sudden. Phenomenal on the floor. That's one of the few guarantees. I don't know if he's able to take Tyron Woodley down. What I do know is he only needs 1 takedown, and if he is able to get Woodley down for any period of time, he should be able to finish him by submission. That's how confident I am in that. Just because we saw Usman was able to get Woodley down, pass his guard fairly quick, and get in a mount, and he was able to constantly go from dominant position to dominant position. Kamaru Usman's a really good grappler, but he's much more of a wrestler than he is, grappler in the jiu-jitsu sense. If Gilbert Burns is able to get you on the ground, he's going to take your back quite easily, I would think. It's a phenomenal fight, though, and I couldn't be more excited.
That's where I think the difference lies. In this fight, Kamaru Usman, a really, really big guy at 170 pounds. Now, Gilbert Burns, yes, he's going to have a slight height advantage. Woodley's going to have the reach advantage. Woodley's going to have the power advantage, the striking advantage, and the wrestling advantage. But it all depends on what you get in this one. And it's a conversation that happens in MMA these days. Well, what's the best discipline to have? And at the start, UFC 1, Royce Gracie, Jiu-Jitsu, number 1. And Gilbert Burns was one of those guys for a really long time, especially at 155 pounds. You just had to ask yourself, when's it going to happen? When's he going to be able to combine his striking with his grappling? Because you know how good of a jiu-jitsu artist he is.
Well.
Let's see what can happen. Well, he gets it to Hard Knocks 365. You're training with the likes of Kamaru Usman, and all of a sudden, that coupled with the move to 170 pounds, even though the win streak started at 155, he's really, really found his groove. So Gilbert Burns entering into this conversation, it's great. It's great for him. And it's great to have, again, more new blood up at the top of this division with the Covingtons, the Usmans, and then your Masvidals, your McGregors, whoever. But Tyron Woodley's a totally different fighter than anybody he's faced so far. Because with Nelson, yeah, he struggled against Leon Edwards. Then he struggled against Gilbert Burns. With Damian Maia, twilight of his career, what are you going to get? Yes, you can say, well, Damian Maia had a big win over Ben Askren, and that's true, and I'll get to that in a bit. Tyron Woodley, the fact that he has that Mizzou wrestling in his back pocket, the Ben Askren relationship with the wrestling, there's so many different X factors that he brings into this fight that I just think overwhelmingly that, yes, if you had 100% Tyron Woodley, And I'll get into the odds. I mean, Woodley a minus 185 favorite right now. Gilbert Burns sitting at a plus 155 underdog. If you had 100% Tyron Woodley, and this fight was 2 years ago, he'd be like a minus 1,000 favorite.
Yeah, wouldn't he be close?
But today in 2020, he's not, just because of that last performance. So overall, what do you make of this fight?
So it's really interesting, and I like that you brought up training partners. Gilbert Burns trains with, again, Kamaru Usman, and who's his best friend? Vicente Luque, one of the best welterweights on the planet. And Hard Knocks 365 is kind of like Team Alpha Male, but for lightweights and welterweights, because when you look at the roster that they have, the Robbie Lawlers, the Michael Chandlers, just really, those weight classes are perfect at that gym, and Gilbert Burns always is going to have a plethora of really high-level training partners. I think it's interesting, though. Gilbert Burns' best punch is that overhand left. I know he's an orthodox fighter, but for some reason, he just has wicked power in his left hand. He's kind of like Michael Bisping in that respect, where his offhand is sort of the more powerful of the two. He has really good kicks, though, and Tyron Woodley has good leg kicks. We just don't see it all that much. It's one of those weird cases where when he does go to it, when he does throw it, he has massive success. It's just, with Woodley, and I know we brought it up, it's always the case of how busy is he going to be. If he is going forward, pushing the pressure, I think it can beat Gilbert Burns. If he's moving backwards, though, and doing that sort of Damian Maia, Kamaru Usman strategy where it's, okay, I'm going to pull you into my power, I'm going to pull you into my power, I think Gilbert Burns wins this fight if that's Tyron Woodley's game plan. If Woodley can keep this in the center of the cage, though, I think he wins this fight.
I think either way, Tyron Woodley wins. And all you have to do, and again, you don't know if you're going to get 100%, but even if you get 70%, all you have to do is look back to UFC 227 with Darren Till. Darren Till, a much bigger fighter. Darren Till, a pressure fighter, a great striker. And yes, he didn't have to worry about the grappling, even though Darren Till does actually have that in his back pocket. We just never see it. We just never see it.
Darren Till got submitted by Tyron Woodley. Gilbert Burns could have an arm tied behind his back. He wouldn't get submitted by Tyron Woodley.
But it was set up by the striking. And again, that's why I'm going to go solely based off of everything that I have out in front of me and the fact that those are pretty juicy odds. If you're going to take Tyron Woodley this far out, I think you should. I wouldn't be surprised if the odds actually start to separate as we get closer to the fight. Because again, this all hinges on the May 27th meeting of the Nevada State Athletic Commission. Now, I know since they said that they were going to have a meeting, a lot of fights have been announced. The UFC and multiple different promotions have applied to at least have some cards in Nevada. So it looks like, yeah, they're probably going to happen. And they probably also wouldn't have a card on the 30th if the meeting was on the 27th and they didn't already have an inkling that it was going to happen. But take everything into account. I'm going to still stick with Tyron Woodley in this fight. Again, I just don't see an area where Gilbert Burns excels so much that he'd be able to totally outmatch Tyron Woodley and get a win.
I think what you're saying is right, but I still think Gilbert Burns is going to win. Because here's the problem. Tyron Woodley, we know a few things about him. He's not a high-volume guy, and he needs that kind of one perfect strike. Ben Askren talked about it after the Usman fight. He even said the reason Usman was able to just keep on go, Tyron Woodley needs to settle into a rhythm and then kind of wait for his opening, because he does have so much power. And when you are a huge power puncher, you do kind of wait on your power. Now, I'm not saying he can't go out there and knock out Gilbert Burns. Tyron Woodley could knock out a horse. That's how strong he is. I just think that Gilbert Burns is going to be able to be slightly busier than Tyron Woodley. He's going to go for takedowns. He's not going to get a lot of them. He probably won't get any of them, but I think he's still going to make it a factor, and he's going to try for them constantly. I think Gilbert Burns is going to win a unanimous decision. I don't love that I'm saying that. I just think Tyron Woodley, welterweight is sort of a young division all of a sudden. There's new guys moving up the ranks, kind of the old guys starting to filter out. We saw it with Maia. I don't know if Tyron Woodley's in that same category yet, but I don't think Tyron Woodley's ever going to be champ again, so I think this is the time for Gilbert Burns to shine.
All right, Matt, it's time for Just Bleed MMA math. Dan Hooker knocked out Gilbert Burns at 155 pounds, so Tyron Woodley's going to do it at 170.
Weight,
that's true. Should be a really good fight. One
excited.
of the best fights on the card, in a card that's great. And then after this, you have UFC 250 to look forward to. You have Nunes taking on the Canadian Felicia Spencer in the main event. Really looking forward to that. And the rest of the card, make sure you check out the rest of the picks. 2 minutes for the main card, 2 minutes for the prelims, the 5 minutes, well, we ended up at 8 for our main event. Make sure you check out some of the merch, because you can find us at Craig Allen FNP and at Matt Allen FNP on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to see this stuff making a comeback, you let us know and we will do it. And I hope you really enjoy all the fights that we have coming up. Make sure you keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We'll have a live show, question mark kicks, right before the event, usually a half hour before. We schedule it with you in the chat. Matt, as we always say, with Fight Night Picks, let's get into it.